Welcome back to another installment of the Nerd Librarian Show with Mr. Evans. On this episode, the first successful head transplant, trying to lead a normal life when your dad's a control freak and a lunatic, aliens that control your heartbeat, a girl who in sentences jumbled only speaks, and a totally rad 80s love story. Let's get started. "16-year-old Travis Coates is about to die from lymphoma, a terrible form of cancer. He agrees to take part in an experimental procedure where his healthy head is removed from his body, frozen, then reattached to a healthy body. What's the catch? Well, despite being decapitated, modern medicine has not yet figured out how to reattach his head to another body. That time comes a full 5 years in the future. Travis Coates' head is attached to a healthy body, and Noggin is his story with healthy head and body, still 16 years old, navigating his way through high school 5 years in the future. I like Noggin a lot because instead of focusing on the transplant, it focuses on Travis's experiences after such a crazy event, and it did it with an awesome sense of humor, just like this trailer.
Hey, look, he's here!
Oh, man.
Travis, just be boring.
You got this, son.
Coates. Oh, what an outstanding I'm so excited to welcome back our own little Springside miracle, Travis Coates.
Listen, I was alive once, and then I wasn't. Now, I'm alive again. Simple as that.
Nice work, Travis. You're an inspiration to us all. What's next? First of all, let's just get this out there. Ellen Hopkins is legit. She writes fascinating stories about characters who are dealing with issues with drugs, alcohol, sex, and violence. Everything that's interesting to read about. And she does it in a catchy free verse, which means her books are always a fast, fun read. Burned is no different. It's the story of Patton Von Stratton, a normal teenage girl raised in a very religious family that is also, unfortunately, filled with abuse. This novel and her story start with a fantasy about a boy. It gets her asking questions about herself, women's role in society, sex, and love. But it's love that she thinks about the most. When her father catches her with a boy, let's just say it hits the fan, and she's sent to live with her aunt that she's never met. What seems like a terrible turn of events turns out to be the biggest blessing she could ever ask for. Free from her abusive father, she's able to explore the world and boys in a way she never could before, in a way she never knew existed. So of course, she lives happily ever after, right? Wrong. Ladies, you'll love this book because it's about breaking free from authority and finally getting the chance to live life in a way that makes you happy. Guys, you'll love this book because, like all of Ellen Hopkins' books, it's just an amazing story. Come to the library and check it out. All right, what's next? Your heart is a really cool muscular organ. It pumps blood throughout the blood vessels of your circulatory system, providing you with life-giving nutrients and oxygen. It's what's known as an involuntary muscle, which means it just pumps away every day without you having to even think about it. In this book, the icons change the rules. After taking over Earth, they control the beat of your heart. Check it out.
The ships fell from the sky at 8:14 this morning. Authorities have no idea as to the object's purpose or origin, but we are expecting the president to announce at any moment.
Ils ont été localisés dans de grandes métropoles, aussi éparses que Los Angeles.
Obviously, we'd love to get a closer malfunction originated from these, we are calling them icons right now. God help us all.
Icons is dystopian and post-apocalyptic, all mixed up into one, with an ending that just might make your heart stop. What's next? Where do I begin with the talk funny girl? First of all, she talks funny. Her parents raised her out in the middle of nowhere, isolated from most of the world and society. Because of that isolation, they've developed their own sort of jumbled up language where they rearrange the syntax or word order of the sentence. For instance, the very first words out of our main character's mouth in the book are, "I come for a try for paying work." What? Now, the reader realizes that what she is saying is, "I'm looking for a job," and so it goes throughout the novel. She speaks in jumbled sentences, you understand her, but everyone in her world makes fun of her and mistreats her for it. On top of it all, her parents are lunatics and abuse her as well. Fortunately, she finds work building a cathedral with a young man who was also abused as a kid. It's through this opportunity that she learns a lot, including how much there is to love about herself. That's important. Unfortunately, there's a man on the loose who is snatching up young girls her age, and they are never seen again. She begins to suspect it's the man she's working for. Eventually, she does find out who it is, and it's an ending you'll never forget. You gotta check this book out. What's next? What can I say about Eleanor and Park? Old people like me automatically love Eleanor and Park because of all the references to the 80s. I personally liked Eleanor and Park, not only because I'm old, but because it's a smoothly written love story that also intertwines some serious family issues. One of the main characters has a horrific home life, and every aspect of her life, especially her love life, is greatly affected by it. Let's listen in on J.C. Johnson, class of 2018, to tell us more about Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell.
Hey, my name is J.C. Johnson, Monsoon class of 2018. As you may be able to tell from my cover, my book is Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell. This is a young adult novel based in Omaha, Nebraska from the fall of 1986 to the summer of 1987. The story follows two very different characters, Eleanor Douglas and Park Sheridan, as they try and maneuver their way through life and love. Eleanor is big and awkward with fiery, crazy red hair. She's often seen wearing men's clothes paired with what looks like anything she can find around the house. She has had a rough life. Her deadbeat dad moved out a while ago, leaving her 4 younger siblings, her mom, with an alcoholic stepdad. On top of that, she gets bullied at school almost every single day. Because of her past, it takes a while for Eleanor to open up and trust other people. Park, on the other hand, has a seemingly perfect life, except for the fact that his dad is always pressuring him to be more manly like his brother. He's a teenage Korean American who finds it hard to fit into the all-white neighborhood. He feels different from the other men in his family because he's small and he likes to listen to music rather than play sports. After a while, Park begins to show his parents who he truly is so he can start really being himself. After Eleanor switches schools and appears on the bus, nobody wants her next to them. After a couple minutes of her standing around, Park reluctantly lets her sit by him, but doesn't say anything to her. At least not anything nice. Over the course of a couple weeks, they begin to slowly open up to each other by talking about comics and music and anything else that comes to mind on their 30-minute bus ride to and from school. Eventually, they realize that they like each other and start dating, but keep it a secret from their families, especially Eleanor's. They help one another maneuver through life in their own individual ways without knowing it. Thought of Park helps Eleanor get through her difficult life at home and at school, while Eleanor helps Park eventually change his father's perception of him into something more positive. After one eventful night, Eleanor comes home to see her belongings thrown around and destroyed, and finds a threatening note from her stepdad. She thinks about how she can escape, and to her surprise, 2 very unlikely people help her along the way before she can meet up with Park. To find out what happens next, you'll have to read the book. I enjoy this book because it was the first book I had picked up since probably elementary school that actually caught and held my attention throughout the whole thing. Prior to Eleanor and Park, I never really felt motivated to read, but one day during my junior year I decided to check this book out, and I've been reading ever since. I even started a little library in my room. Another reason why this story kept my attention was all of the musical references. In fact, the song that you may hear playing in the background right now is I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For by U2. I picked this song not only because it's a great song, but because bands like U2 are mentioned throughout the whole novel, and music is one of the important ways that our 2 lovebirds bonded. Eleanor and Park will always have a special place in my heart, and I hope you also find the time to read this #1 New York Times bestseller. Thank you.
Thanks, JC. I'd have to say Eleanor and Park is one of the top 5 love stories and stories in general that we have here in the library. So come check it out. That's it for another episode of the Nerd Librarian Show with Mr. Evans. As always, be good to each other, Monsoons.